Hey boys, hope you're doing well. Now, if I look a little shiny in today's video, it's because my AC is broken. It is 30 degrees Celsius in here. That is 86 in freedom units. And if I had to say how I was feeling in one phrase, it'd be Betty Swallocks. Yep, absolutely loving it. But it's not going to stop me from doing this video today because I really want to talk about this. And that is a mid-season review, or like a State of Barbarian talk. And we're going to go through pretty much every aspect of the class now, because since all of the buffs that we've been getting, and especially 1.1.1, a lot of people are now actually asking, is it worth playing? Is it strong? And I'm hopefully going to answer all of those questions for you. But spoiler alert, Barbarian was always strong. You just didn't know it. As I've always said, strongest class in the game. But yeah, we have had a lot of really positive changes, and I want to start by talking about the builds. Now, the first one I'll get out of the way is the most obvious. It's the double swing build with Rupture. Now, a lot of you have seen probably Rob's video where he hits for 940 million on Lilith. Now, this is obviously a bug. You're not supposed to be able to do that. No class is. Actually, I feel like it's a bad thing for the game that there's too many classes that can do this right now. Lilith, you're supposed to fight her, actually do the mechanics, and not just one-shot her like she's a target dummy, but now the Barbarian can, just like everybody else, so maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. And this is due to an unintended interaction between the Barber and Berserk Ripping, which is actually something that basically every spec the Barbarian has can currently use. Now, not so much of that is due to the build itself. Double Swing is just using it the best. It's sort of exploiting it the best. But other than that, the build is actually very strong throughout. Doing tier 100s no problem as well. Very, very good option for Barbarians at the moment. Whirlwind, my personal favorite, is very powerful as well right now. Very fast. Best speed clearing build. Absolutely chews up tier 100s. It's weak where it's always been weak, and that is single target. However, thanks to the bug again, you can use Berserk Rippin and the Barber to do like 50 mil crits single target. So Whirlwind Lilith kill actually possible now. Pretty cool. I'll be trying that actually soon on stream, so if you want to check that out, link is of course down in the description below. Hammer of the Ancients has been dethroned as the king of single target DPS by Double Swing. Still though, very, very good in that regard, but also a very versatile build in general, so has good clear speed in Nightmare dungeons and can actually detonate bosses much faster than Whirlwind. Bleed is doing really well too as well, has had a lot of love in the recent patches, and I am leveling actually a no-shout Bleed Barbarian at the moment, which I'm having a lot of fun with. The spec feels very powerful, like it has a lot of AoE. Single target I'm still working on, but it's nothing to sleep on. But not a meta build, I'll be honest, not a meta build, but definitely much closer to the other builds than it was before. Walking Arsenal now, not too much has changed with it. It was always a pretty good build. It was very strong. Like the Bleed build, it's one of the more interactive playstyles. So if you actually like having a rotation and having a bit more skill-dependent DPS, then this is a great choice for you. Definitely every build is clearing tier 100, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, as far as like build variety goes, it's obviously not changed. It's all still the same builds, and their listing in like, you know, a tier list is kind of the same, with Double Swing being the only one that's really moved. But again, that's due to a bug, so take that as you will. But I feel like as far as these things go, they're probably going to leave them for the big seasonal patches anyways before they really shift the meta around. So as much as I would have loved to have seen something big change, I feel like we need to curb our expectations mid-season and not expect too much of a crazy change in the meta. So they've said as much during the campfire chats. It is what it is. Now, leveling is a huge, huge part of the Barbarians' improvements. We spend most of our time leveling. It's like 90% of the game for a lot of people, and there's been a lot of really positive changes here. So most of our Fury generators have had their damage and the Fury generating increased, which has really helped smooth out the whole experience. A lot of core skills and also a lot of our weapon mastery skills have had damage buffs as well, making them all much more powerful early on. Just generally, our power curve is far more consistent than it's ever been, and leveling a Barbarian actually feels really, really nice, because in the past, this has definitely been one of the weaker points of the class, and I mean, people memed on it for being like squishy, doing no damage, and that's really not so much the case anymore. I have a lot of fun leveling new Barbarians, so I feel that they've done an excellent job here, and especially once you get into like Nightmare dungeons, and you can start making use of that higher density of enemies. Barbarians love that, right? The more enemies we can hit, the more generation we get for our Fury, the more damage we do, especially if we have the Barber. It's all really good stuff. So, yep, giving leveling a sort of stamp of approval feels really nice. Tier 100s, I kind of touched on this, but basically our end game is pretty solid. I think every single spec we have that sort of mainstream can do a tier 100 relatively easy. As for killing Lilith, pretty much, again, same situation. I think I've seen someone kill Uber Lilith with practically every build you can think of so far this season. So great news there, looking very strong across the board. Uniques, still kind of a bit of an issue for the Barbarian because we don't really use that many in a lot of the builds. Now, they are getting better slowly over time. Magnum Opus is probably the strongest one we have. It does very well in double swing, does very well in a dual wield whirlwind build as well, but you can get away without it quite easily. Fields of Crimson looking very attractive for the bleed builds. Now, I haven't really tested this out too much, but it does feel very, very, very strong, especially with the Rupture buff. So I think this is something you will see a lot more use of right now. And then another unique, which is not specific to the Barbarian, it's a general unique that everybody can use, but Temerity, holy shit. Temerity is looking crazy OP. So actually probably something everyone's going to be using moving forward. Now, final thoughts and like rating it against other classes, I would say as far as Lilith kill time goes, I think Barbarian is S tier. Double swing allows us to one-shot her, so you can't get much better than that. All of our other specs, I would say, are probably A, B, or C. We can definitely kill her in every spec, so, I mean, that's a good thing. And I think for Nightmare Dungeons, if I was to rate that against the other classes, I feel like there's very few that can compete with clear time against Whirlwind, depending on, like, especially if you're speed farming, but even up to, like, tier 100, things like maybe Shrednado Druid can match it, if not beat it. And especially if you spec your Whirlwind properly so you can actually deal with the bosses at the end of the dungeon, you're going to be killing them in like 1 Barber proc, or maybe 2 Barber procs at worst, which is 8 seconds. I mean, how bad? 8 seconds for a tier 100 boss? That's not bad. And I feel like all of our other specs, again, probably fall in like an A, B, or C category. C probably being like Walking Arsenal and Bleed. But all around, I'd say it seems like a pretty level playing field at this moment in time at the end game. So I'm very happy with where the Barbarian is. Voya! Uncharacteristic Dalkora cut. Camera actually stopped working now. I think it overheated. So I was just getting around to saying here that my overall verdict for the Barbarian is that it's in a really good place, and that if you're looking at jumping in and leveling one up, now is the best time ever to do so. But of course, I want to open up the discussion to you guys. How have you felt about the Barbarian? If you've been playing it, let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, consider liking it, and if you think I deserve it, consider subscribing as well. Of course, stream every single day over on Twitch. I'll leave a link down in the description as well. But that's it, boys. Hope you had a good one. It's so hot. Right. See ya.